thank you, Mr. Natarajan. That was quite insightful. And before today's session, I did go through your book. Obviously, it's a load of data, so it's going to take some time for me to kind of internalize it. But before I start talking to you, I'll give you a small anecdote, since that seems to be the theme of the day. I was in Nepal last year, and as you know, Nepal has quite an influence now over them, that of China. Right? And they're just enamored by it. And one of my closest friends, there's a SARC quota in our National Institutes of Technology. So from my engineering days, one of my closest friends is a Nepali, very, very well-off businessman, does a lot of work with China. And he was going on about how, Alipay and all that stuff is happening in China and how, India doesn't seem to be anywhere. And I had to tell him that, look, that your story is 2 years old, right? After COVID, now, India has got 2.5 times the number of digital transactions of China and more than the next 7 combined, right? So, but the theme that I'm trying to come to is that while you've talked about what, we are doing and what we should do better, but, it took COVID, for example, and forceful conversion to digital for India to adopt that level of digital payments. In your book, you talk about a lot of things, and we'll come to that, obviously, but what about the bureaucracy? Don't you think that, there's something that needs to be addressed there? Aren't we, running into that wall in a number of these things? For example, you said about, just one second, that STPI thing, right? Now, there's a big KPO, investment banking KPO here in Pune, and they were almost on the edge of struggling because the renewal of that, work from home was done at the nth moment. So how do we tackle these examples along with what you're saying we should do?
I'm going to make a statement very unpopular, but I really think the government of India knows what it's doing, including the Indian Administrative Service. I mean, including in private sector. I think Bharat, you mentioned a couple of examples. You will never get the perfect leader everywhere. You'll never get the perfect middle management everywhere. But if you look at the kind of work we do in the social sector, it is entirely with the wholehearted support of the government of India. And just to give you one example, I mean, many of you in Pune know something called Pune City Connect, which is our big social initiative, where every slum community, in every ward, we are now tackling through a combination of getting the youth to be mobilized and come to our skills lighthouses. And we now have, in fact, we are celebrating next week, 10,000 slum youth who are paid, who are in good paying jobs at this point of time in the last 3 years. How did that happen? It happened by tremendous support from the bureaucracy. I still remember there was a commissioner whom some of you may remember from 5 years ago, a guy called Kunal Kumar who came to the city, IAS officer. And we were, at that time I was in Zensar and we were inaugurating a little digital literacy center. And Kunal said, why aren't we doing this at scale across the city? So I told him exactly what I said. We don't trust the bureaucracy and we'll do our little stuff and you do your big stuff. And Kunal laughed and said, you come and sit in my office and let's make this happen. So he gave me 3 lessons to go back to Manoj's ideas of multiple lessons. The first lesson he told me was, never take money from the government. Okay? I said, what's the second one? He says, never give money to the government. That's a bigger anathema. Okay? And the third is, start learning to trust. Okay? In India, we have this huge distrust of government. Okay? We believe everything they do. Like this morning, I was reading the PPCR note saying, oh, Pune cleaned up for G20, the event last week. And now look, everybody's throwing muck on the road all over again. Now, it may be true, but we shouldn't exaggerate so much, okay? So the point I'm making is, Kunal said, and we've created a model which is now not only working in Pune, it started in Mumbai, we're doing it in Delhi, we're doing it in Odisha, we're starting in UP next month, but primarily all the capex, and the government has huge amount of buildings and infrastructure available. So they're just giving it to us and say, go raise money and run this for the benefit of the rural poor. Educate girls, I mentioned earlier. I mean, we cannot do what we are doing with 1.7 million out-of-school rural girls if it weren't for the wholehearted support of the governments of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Uttar Pradesh. So the point I'm making is, you'll always encounter people who are barriers. By the way, just to give you to answer your KPO example, we were working on it from NASSCOM, and we actually got it done by the Ministry of IT the day before it would have expired.
Exactly.
I know people were worried, oh, will it happen or not? But I mean, we're pretty comfortable that this is a well-meaning government. They're all mired in red tape, as you can see. But by and large, things get done.
No, so I do agree with you that at the top level and the higher level of bureaucracy, I have the fortune of knowing the Chief Secretary of Maharashtra very well, right? And and because it's a personal relationship, we get a lot of insights in terms of what they really want to do without the color of bureaucracy. But it's, there are barriers, right? And sometimes it happens at the highest echelons. Earlier today, Mr. Banerjee talked about, crypto. But you also had a statement from the finance minister who said that the biggest problem with blockchain is anonymity, which he was confabulating cryptocurrency with blockchain, right? And you've seen the flight of, and I'm personally okay with the flight of cryptocurrency entrepreneurs from India to the UAE, but all the blockchain entrepreneurs are also flying away from India to UAE or Singapore, where they're being welcomed with open arms.
That part is correct. I agree with you, because there is a large flight of entrepreneurs in Singapore, because Singapore is like, literally there are 3 agencies which will just get your startup started immediately. And while we do claim ease of doing business in India has gone up substantially, you ask a young businessman, he won't agree. I mean, even today, shutting down a company is like pulling teeth. It's not easy. Okay, so I think the ability to fail fast, move forward, yes, there's much to be done. I have no argument on that. I'm just saying, like Nitin Gadkari is doing a whole bunch of stuff for infrastructure, and let's say Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav is doing so much for IT. There are enough people out there who are trying to make things happen in a very, very wholehearted manner. And I think we need to work with the good guys and ignore the bad guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think, I think we're short on time. So before I throw it to the audience, I'll ask you one final question. You talk about the $1 trillion digital economy, right? Now, there's a very obvious statistic out there where the, top big 5 tech companies in the US, last year, they were worth $800 billion in revenue, right? That's almost a $1 trillion economy, right? What is it that we can do to enable that for Indian companies? Because we are far away from that. I don't think that, our top 5 would even be totaling up to the number 1, right? So how do we do that?
I wouldn't quite agree, because if you look at TCS, for instance, today, and you take TCS, Infosys, and just the top 5 companies which are all above, between $1 to $8 billion revenue, they have a heck of a lot of market capitalization. I am actually a cynic who believes that our Indian tech companies are overvalued at this point of time. So it'll take a bit of, because it's almost like you're assuming they'll grow at 20-25% per year for the next 20 years, which is not possible.
I know I'm interrupting you, but just quick thing. I'm actually not talking about market cap, right? The number 1 has $280 billion in revenue. That's what counts to GDP.
See, that's a problem which we all know that, look, we are not, unfortunately, yet a product economy. Uma mentioned Zoho. Zoho is the only product or platform company which has actually touched $1 billion revenue. Otherwise, we've always been too comfortable. I'm guilty of that myself. It was so easy in Pune to build a $500 million services business that even though we had products going on, we kind of just made them accelerators. So yeah, that's a problem. So today at NASSCOM, we're trying to address that by saying deep tech, product economy has to evolve. But product economy is not just great products. Forgive me if anybody loves Microsoft in this room, but the success of Microsoft is never to be an innovator or to build the best product, but to put marketing muscle behind the second best product and really cream the market. Okay, so I think that's something we haven't learned yet. Initially, capital was a problem. Today, as I think somebody was talking about the need for an idea. So having new ideas which are truly disruptive is what is going to make the market. Now, there is a traditional wisdom that believes that, look, you must first find a customer, you must ask the customer what she wants, and then build stuff that she wants. My favorite guru in the tech industry is Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs' most famous quote is that you can never trust the customer to know what she wants. So you have to produce something and she will come and want it. Absolutely. Now, these are very contrarian ideas, but we need a heck of a lot more contrarian ideas in this country for really deep ideas to come that will change the world tomorrow. So that's what we're all hopeful about.
No, I think that's great. So just to wrap this up, so let's use one example, which I just mentioned. What are the 3 things that the government can do today, right? Or, as an ecosystem we can do today to stop, for example, the flight of blockchain opportunity from India, right? Or the Web 3.0 opportunity from India. So in your mind, if you were to give just, 3 bullet points to the government, what would that be?
See, my point is, if you look at, for instance, I'm very actively involved today, thanks to the State Bank Board, in the whole digital economy. And if you look at what's happening, the RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das, he's an absolute visionary when it comes to what should work for India. And initially when he was like anti-cyber currency and we came up with a digital rupiah, etc. But now it's getting used to it. And he has a good method of taking it forward and making it happen. So I think we definitely need any Luddites in the government who don't get it to be taken to their master and spanked. Okay, but that's not difficult either, by the way. But the good guys, I think we have to completely support and make that happen. So I mean, I'm going back to my theme of saying government wants to do stuff in India today. Let's forget our trust deficit with the government over the last maybe 50 years and really make stuff happen, because it's going to happen, not to worry.
Great. So any questions from the audience before we wrap up with Mr. Natarajan?
Come on, Prakash, you got to ask me a question. Make my day.
All right, I think, yeah.
I told you I was supposed to be in Mumbai, but this young lady called me up and said, you have to be here. So I'm here and then going back to Mumbai. So that's how it is. No, Prakash, it's just, and you and I both know that, it's just a question of liking what you do. And sadly, if you like 14 things, the thing that gets compromised, as you and I know, is my golf game. That's all. But thank you very much.
And thank you very much.